Now, there are some extra stages. These are circumstances under which that normal 6-stage process of decomposition doesn't quite pan out. Okay, so these are extenuating circumstances. If the area or the environment is very dry or very, very cold or hot, then the tissues will not decompose readily. The insects aren't attracted to these tissues any longer. Bacteria die. There's not enough water. Animals don't feed. In this instance, the skin becomes leathery. It becomes shrunken and dark, and this process is called mummification. This stage can last a very, very long time. Egyptian mummies, for example, very, very easily preserved because of this. Nothing is breaking it down. Adipocere. So this is commonly called grave wax. It's a waxy fat that will help preserve the body, and it tends to form at high humidity and high temperatures. So if the environment is very, very humid and very warm, then we get adipocere formation. Adipocere forms when bacterial enzymes convert liquid, unsaturated fats in the body to solid, saturated fats. So it's basically just taking the liquid fat in your body and turning it solid, like trans fats. Neat. Okay, so these new saturated fats take on a clay-gray appearance. So it looks clay-like, and they're gray. That's adipocere. And it can take between 3 to 6 months to develop. But what it does, it will preserve the tissues. So it's commonly found in bodies that are buried, and they are kept from animal feeding. It allows those soft tissues to be preserved for many, many years. So there are cases where people have dug up bodies or exhumed bodies from the Civil War, from other mass disasters many, many years ago, and there are still soft tissues on that body. You can still see organs. You can still see skin. You can still see muscle tissue because this adipocere acted as a preservative. All right. Scavenging. Scavenging can have a significant effect on decomposition rates. Mammals, birds, large insects, all manner of these things will scavenge the remains and take them elsewhere. They can completely disarticulate a body and remove that carcass very, very quickly. So they may just leave a few remains. So in this case, this example of scavenging, this was an experiment I was running with a clothed body, trying to recreate a scene. And so day 1, I had a pig out there. It was clothed. Day 2, it was completely gone, except for, I think you can see a scapula in this picture. That was all that was left. So they may leave a few remains behind, including drippings from the body. So if that body had gotten to the bloat stage, it was starting to purge fluids. Those drippings can remain in the soil, and maggots and other insects can live on those drippings and still go through their full life cycle. So you can still use zoological methods to do a postmortem interval estimation based on the drippings in these cases. However, the body is completely gone. If you get into a situation where you need that body, you have an anthropologist or somebody who needs to look at the skeleton, that's when you have to go find those body parts. And that is a nasty, nasty, nasty process, because animals will take bits of disarticulated body and take it back to their dens, to their burrows, to wherever, and you have to go and find it. And so I've worked many a scene where you're out there with just this huge group of workers, and all they're doing is we're looking in the tiniest of places for things like finger bones or teeth or something, and it is a horribly long and tedious process, and I don't recommend it to anybody. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, we need to go look for this disarticulated body, pretend you're busy. Like, I've got paperwork and things to just in. So basically carry around a file folder, mumble something, and wander away. That's how I got out of it last time, and I was able to work my crime scene based on the maggots at the scene, as opposed to having to tromp around the hills for 7 or 8 days in the heat. Oh god, that sucks. Don't tell anybody I did that. All right. Now, this here is a general process of decomposition. So this is Dr. Payne's work. He's one of the famous ecologists who looked at decomposition. So if you watch here, he put down a clock, placed this pig out, started with fresh, moved into this bloat stage, goes into active decay. You can see the flies sort of going all around it. Start to see from the mouth this purging of fluids. You can see not a lot happening right here because it's all internal decomposition going on at the beginning. There's a lot of flies. Notice that they're going for natural bodily openings here. You'll see these flies that'll move into the nose, the mouth, into the ears, sort of get down there and lay their eggs. And then it looks like everything just kind of stops. So what happened here was the flies laid their eggs, and the eggs are now developing into first, second, third instar maggots internally. So you'll see them down the throat, in the eyes, in the ears, in the nose, in the anal areas. Looks like things are happening. See fluids starting to come from the mouth. A lot more flies are attracted. This is more gases are being produced here, so more flies are being attracted. Look how thickly they're attracted to that mouth area. This is where we see primary fly colonization. Looks like it jumped there for a minute. There comes some more fluids from the mouth. And now we're starting to see some weird movement around that oral cavity. Those are maggots. The maggots have gotten to a size where they're just starting to feed on that facial area. Notice that decomposition appears to start at the head. This is where we see active decomp first in the case of maggot infestation, because that's where the flies went. So you'll see this major putrefaction. But look at this difference now. It looks like active decomp in the head, while that abdominal area, the dorsal area, still looks fresh. This is the problem with discrete decomposition stages. Looks like you put mothballs there at the bottom. Not sure why. Either that or marshmallows. Okay. Watch as it decomposes more. Look at that abdominal area. It's starting to break open. Starting to see a lot of maggots and movement in that abdominal area. Things are decomposing. The intestines have come out. The abdominal wall is broken open. And now we have a massive maggot mass just taking over. Squirming around and eating everything. You can see now that the anterior portion, the head, is almost completely skeletonized. Probably smells like cheese. And notice the feet that keratinized, those hooves are left. Not good maggot feeding sites. Okay, now we've gone into this sort of dry stage of decay. Looks like most of the hair and the fur is gone. The maggots are starting to leave. Things are calming down a little bit. Mostly skeletonization. And this stage can last for a very, very long time. You still see some movement of maggots. What they're doing there is they're feeding on the drippings. Stuff there. There's probably quite a few beetles. Some of those big spots you see in are beetles that are coming in to either feed on the body itself or feed on the maggots. Things still sort of roiling like there's maggots under there. Neat. Flies are all over the place still, but these are a slightly different wave of flies. Notice they look a little bit smaller. This is that second sear, or the second wave of flies happening. All right. Dry decay can last for a very long time. And now it looks like the body has made dry decay and or skeletonization. So here he is. Oh, look at that. Look at all those beetles. Okay, those are those carrion beetles we looked at. You can still see that there's some moisture underneath the body. This is a close-up of what's going on. You can see that there's maggots still feeding on that moisture. Look at all those maggots. So you can still do some post-mortem interval estimations, even if the body is missing. It will happily feed there. They go down pretty deep. Look at that. Basically, as far as the drippings go, that's how far the maggots are going to go. And there we go. All right. So that was the general stages of decomposition. If there's any questions, let me know.